So I made another garden obelisk. This time, in the last video I cut out a bunch of the steps, some of the boring stuff, but I thought on this video I'll include everything that I do along the way. Maybe some of the stuff is not there that you saw in the last video, but anyway, this is a detailed look. Same thing, but different. Hope you enjoy. So here's another cedar offcut from a sawmill up from Northern Ontario, again courtesy of John. So I'm going to make up one more garden obelisk out of this. I'm going to start by cutting off about the top 1.5 feet. And then we'll cut this into some, we need 4 3/4 by 3/4 inch strips to start with. And then we'll cut some 3/4 inch slices off that at 1/2 inch to give us the little cross bracing. Okay, we'll cut some 3/4 by 3/4 strips out of this. All right, I got the fence set for 7 inches. I got a bed rail on the edge of this plank slab. And I'm going to cut 7 inches off this. So give me a strip right down the middle. There's a lot of waste over here that I'll probably be ripping again to get the shorter pieces that I like for my 3/4 by 3/4 inch bits that'll go on the obelisk. So this will not go to waste, but I need the long bits first. Okay, I'm going to go straight to 3/4 inch strips. Cut 4 out of this. Got a lot of good wood out of that cut. Take whatever I can out of this. Okay, some good wood came out of that. I got some beautiful pieces here, full length, clear, just totally clear lumber. This is going to be wonderful. So I got 3 pieces of that are totally clear. This one is almost clear. It's got a knot at the very end that comes through at an angle. So on one side it looks clear. So really happy with those pieces. So next step is I'm going to clean up one edge of it. So I'm going to set the saw blade to be 1 inch wide. So I can go through, or set the fence at 1 inch so I can just clean up one edge, and then I'll go back to 3/4 and get a nice square edge on clean edge on all 4 sides. In fact, what I'm going to do first is I'm just going to trim off these pieces where it becomes a waning edge, just so I don't have to deal with little sharp pointy bits. So I'll just cut those off through the saw first. I'll rip all those through at 1 inch. All right, we're going to set the fence to 3/4 again and rip all these guys through. I'm going to hold these ones off to the side though, these shorter ones, because I may want to rip them down to 1/2 by 1/2. Or 1/2 by 3/4 rather. So I'm going to set up the saw for 1/2 inch and do the remainder at 1/2 by 1/2. 1/2 by 3/4 rather. Okay, now on to doing a 1/8 inch round over on the router. This time I'm taking a slightly different approach to simplify the process of putting in all the cross pieces. So what we're going to be doing is making the little cross sections independently, and then we will lay those finished cross sections between the legs once they're done. So I'm starting off by marking all the pieces. Our lower members are 14.5 inches, well 14.25 inches long. They'll be trimmed at 7 degrees on each end to get down to 14.25 from the 14.5 that I'm cutting. Then I got a bunch of pieces that are 11 inches long, so we'll cut them, and a bunch of pieces that are 7.5 inches long. So I've kind of marked out roughly on our blanks. These are all the blanks that we're going to use. And I can cut out the imperfections so we don't have anything in there. This is all from cedar. So I'm going to set up the table saw with some stop blocks. Now I know I could use the compound miter saw, but I find that the table saw I can just set it up and get it running continuously, and I have dust collection on it. So the fence is set to handle the 4.25 inch block, so I'm taking one off this piece, and I'm taking another 3 off this piece here. Okay, now I'm going after 7.5 inch pieces. And I've got one coming out of this bit here that's going to avoid this knot. And I've got 3 coming out of this piece. So we'll get the fence in place to stop that at 7.5 inches. I'm taking 1 out of this piece and 3 out of this one. Okay, on to 11 inch pieces. First cut will be just an even off And finally our 14.5-inch pieces. Okay, there's all our cross pieces cut, or our cross members cut. Now I'm going to cut the, figure out the length of our little X pieces that go between them. So between those two pieces, we'll have an X member that goes from that edge, that extreme edge, to this extreme edge. And we'll figure out, I'll measure the distance between the two. We'll get that set up, cut those pieces. The intent here is by having all of these pieces cut exactly to the same size, I don't have to do the cut and fiddle with, as I did on the last obelisk, where every little cross member that I cut was cut individually and required a lot of fiddling. So I'm hoping using this method, I can set the saw up, make 8 cuts, make 8 pieces in one go, then just join them together. So it should be a much faster operation. So I'll come back as soon as I have that length determined. So I got all of our 8 cross pieces cut for the lower section, 8 cross pieces cut for the middle section, and 8 cross pieces cut for the top section. And now I'm just working through to figure out the right angle. So I have laid out this cross member to come up even with this line, and it is sitting on the lines where it's going to be sitting horizontally. Same thing with this guy, he's sitting horizontally on the lines that he's supposed to be on. And I have marked the angle that I want. Turns out that angle is going to be cut by setting the blade at 40 degrees. So I'm going to go over and set that blade on the table saw, and then we'll run these 8 pieces through and just make sure we get the length right. So this will become our guide measurement. So I'll cut 40 degrees there, I'll cut 40 degrees here, then use this piece to set the fence appropriately, and then I can just cut the other pieces exactly to that length. These pieces are going to have a slightly different angle, as will these pieces. So we're going to start here. So just some quick thinking. I don't need to change the angle of the blade. I'm just changing the angle of the miter to 40 degrees and setting the piece on edge. So I'll work this through to cut that first one, and then we'll get the fence set up after this other end has been cut. So I'm going to go ahead and cut off one end of each of these pieces. That way I'll have that end that I can butt up against the fence and then cut them to length. All right, got all our pieces cut. Let's go over and figure out now where we need to cut the notches. Had a second thought. Before I cut the notches, I'm going to cut the other little cross pieces to length, so to the appropriate angle and length. So I'll go set up the middle section and the top section, figure out what they're supposed to be, and then come back and we'll cut those on the saw. Then we'll do the notches. So our middle section angle is 30 degrees. So I'm just going to cut a bit off each end, 30 degrees, come back and do this one, then set up the fence. So this piece is the length we want. I'm just going to set up the fence. Okay, we'll go do the top section now, cut them to length, or get the angle and length. Back in a sec. So it turns out our top angle is 22 degrees. So I'm just going to cut each of these to, cut a little bit off each end. And I'll come back, set the fence according to this piece, the length of this piece. Okay, I got this piece cut to length, so I'll just set it up to the fence. Now we can get all our other pieces cut. Okay, next up will be notches. That's always fun. So I put these two pieces into the obelisk. Kind of got a rough measurement by placing them like so. Actually, like so. So that these flat edges, whoops. So kind of placed in there like that. So that these edges met up against the cross piece. These edges met the bottom of the cross piece. It was all lined up correctly. And then I was able to mark where the cutout should be and the angle that it should be. So it turns out it's 10 degrees. So what I have learned is if I cut them all on the same side, I'll have them lined up perfectly. So I set them up here, 90 degrees, drew a straight line across them, so I had a line across everything. Then I set my miter at 10 degrees, and I'm pushing them up like that. And now I'm going to clamp them in place, and then I'll be able to run them through the saw like this, and I'll be cutting the miter on the other side, but it just means I'll be cutting the cutout, because that'll be a, what do we call that, a rabbet? A lap joint, half of the lap joint on the other side. But that's okay, I'm okay. So I'm just gonna make sure I got everything lined up here perfectly, and then we'll make those cuts and see what we get. The other thing I just marked here is so I can see when I bring this up to the fence, up to the blade, how much I want to cut out. Let's set to the right height. That height, by the way, is going to be 3/8 of an inch. Okay, we'll hog this out. And I'll be careful not to cut through the handle of my clamp. And to see how that worked. It's looking pretty good. I have a little bit of flexibility here, which is nice. That should match up, and that should match up. Let's go do a test fit. So we have a nice join there, nice join here, and down this end, we're looking really good. This end, we're looking really good. A nice lap joint in the middle. Hey, that was successful. So the goal now will be tack these in place. All right, we got all the pieces now cut and the lap joints cut out of them. So we're ready to staple these guys together. Sorry, pin nail them together. So I'll be pin nailing at the top on each of these sections. 2 pin nails here and here, pin nail here and here, pin nail here and here, and then we'll do the lower parts, just kind of starting up here. We'll put pin nails there, and pin nails there. But I'm going to do that after lunch. All right, got these pieces laid out where I want them to be, and we'll just try and drive a 1-inch pin nail through there. Okay, that worked. We'll put one in the other side. Probably need to tack that down a little bit with the nail set, but that one worked. Okay, I'm going to do the same with this set. Do the top piece working down the, and then we'll start attaching these guys onto here. So the thing I'm trying to avoid is the piece from moving over like this. Closer in the center. So I want to keep this right on the edge, and it has, as I apply pressure, it has a tendency to push in. So that's what I'm trying to avoid, and it probably will mean something like just put a block in here, but in fact I have a block here. Just going to move you up the table. That'll keep things from moving. Let's just try that. Yeah, pretty good job. That's good. Okay, I'm gonna do the same thing with the top one. I'll be right back. And we'll get this bottom piece put in place. I'll switch the camera around. So I'm finding it a little awkward. I can't do it this way. It needs to be done like so, left-handed. So I'm gonna do this side, flip the piece around, and then I can get at this one a little bit easier. Okay. That is one side that can now be put in place. So just for fun, I'm going to cut a couple legs to length and insert this piece into those legs. Let's see how that works. All right, so we're putting screws in. I'm using my drill with a little countersink bit built in. So just drilling a hole through here like this, then putting in a screw over the seam here. And that side will be done, then I'll flip it over in the jig and do the other side. So for our little diamond at the top, I've marked out a diamond shape on our little square block here. So I'm going to run this through the bandsaw and get that cut to shape. So there's our rough diamond cut out. I'll just go over to the benchtop sander and trim that up a little bit, smooth it out, make a little flat spot so we can drill a hole. All right, got the sides smoothed out very nicely and a little flat spot for drilling the hole. So I'll take this over to the drill press and we'll get that set up to drill that hole. So this is the screw that we're going to put in here. I'll go in that way. I'm going to go cut the head off it and drive it in. I'll take it to the bench. I didn't show this in the last video, so I'll spend a little bit more time on this part of it. And that just goes in that hole there. And we'll turn it in. Done. And there is our completed garden obelisk. Very similar to the last one. Main difference being the way the internal bracing here has been constructed. These ones meet, in this obelisk, they meet these cross members as opposed to meeting the legs. That seems to have made it a lot easier to manufacture, to build, and I'd probably go with that method moving forward. So I hope you have enjoyed that. Thank you very much for watching. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next video.